Hi there, friends, and welcome to this week's week one global read aloud discussion for the wonderful book Stunt Boy. Stunt Boy is written by one of my favorite authors, Jason Reynolds. I've had the pleasure of meeting him in person. He's a phenomenal, kind, gracious person. And also, this book is illustrated by an illustrator I discovered last year, and I've fallen in love with his style, and I love it. A wonderful graphic artist by the name of Raoul III. So today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to discuss some of those things that you noticed. What do you wonder about in the wonderful book of Stunt Boy? But before we jump into that, I have a really great video I wanted to share with you. And this video is an interview of Jason Reynolds, and it shares a little bit about his background and why he wrote the book that he wrote. So let's go ahead. We're going to dive in and learn a little bit about the book, and then let's talk about it. Here we go. So I'm going to share my screen. Here we go.
Jason Reynolds.
Yes,
back.
there's only one.
The best-selling author is out with a new book. It's called Stunt Boy. In the meantime, the middle-grade graphic novel is about a boy named Portico Reeves who becomes Stunt Boy. It's an alter ego. He's a superhero. He keeps his friends and neighbors safe in his apartment building. And he's also coping with some real-world issues. Anxiety, his parents' divorce, things people go through. Stunt Boy, in the meantime, happens to be published by Simon & Schuster, a division of Viacom CBS. But Jason Reynolds is back with us because the book is very good, and we love Jason.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Always good to see you all.
This is an exciting book, as a lot of your stories are when they're not super serious. But before we get into the plot, I'm very interested in the dedication. This is dedicated to a 10-year-old you.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about that.
The question is, who was I at 10, right? What was going on in my life at 10 years old? And for me, my life was turning upside down. Things were shifting, things were changing. The dynamics of my family were definitely transforming because my parents were going through a divorce. And I had no idea what to do about it. And they really didn't know what to tell me to help me cope with it. And so I felt a little inverted, to say the least.
And this story, you think, could be a window for kids like you who are going through that?
You know, what I hope it is that it's a window and a mirror in that way, but also a tool that can be used by adults so that they can read this with their young people to help process sort of what's happening in the shifting sands of family, right? It's okay that it's happening, right? It's one of those things that sort of happen, but how can I figure out how to write something that young people can laugh and go on this adventure with, and adults can say, this is what's going on, and this is how we can talk about it.
Jason, I think this is so important because when I was getting a divorce, favorite daughter and favorite son were very young, and we made up this fantastical story that Daddy was moving out because he had to catch the burglar in the other house, so he'd be moving. I mean, and when you look at it now, I feel it's such a terrible thing to do to children because they kept saying, when is he coming back? Did he catch the burglar? And I like when you lay out divorce, you say, listen for any of these word combinations. Think of it like cracking the code. When your parents say, our relationship, we love you, things change, things won't change. These things happen, not your fault.
Yeah.
These were words you heard.
Absolutely.
And confused you even more?
They definitely confused me more because there was nothing else behind it to sort of help me process what was actually going on. So if this is not what it is, then what is it?
What is it?
Right, what is it? And I think I just needed a little extra grounding, a little extra footing. And so you can say it's not my fault. Well, then whose fault is it?
Is it, yeah.
Right.
You talk about Portico having the frets.
Yeah.
Talk about the frets. I think we all still have the frets. What are the frets?
Anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, it's a way that we can talk about anxiety, stomach turning, and to figure out, my whole goal was, how can we figure out how to write about anxiety in a way that feels spot on in terms of what's happening in the body? It makes it feel as though all of your organs are being rearranged, right? And for a young person who doesn't understand how to communicate that all the time, I wanted to give them the voice to say, like, I get it when your stomach's in your throat, or when your brain's in your stomach, or when your heart's in your legs, or, right? Like, and figuring out how to talk about the discombobulation of anxiety.
Yeah, kids go through so much, and there's so many children that will identify with this. But a quote comes to mind, it's, I needed a superhero, so I became one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Is that an overarching message to kids out there that might be searching for something, not knowing that it could be a mirror reflection?
It is. It's to say that the things that make us super are typically the things that are inherent. They're usually not any mutations, right? It's compassion. This is a young man who is so empathetic that his superpower is saving the superheroes. Yeah. He just doesn't want anyone to be hurt, including his parents. Yeah. And so he's willing to take on more weight than he deserves to take on to ensure that he can save his parents from themselves.
Jason, you say you write for all children, but you write for Black children in particular. What's the distinction in your mind?
I write 2 Black children.
2 Black children.
I write 2 Black children. I write for all children. And the distinction is simple. My books are love letters to Black kids, roadmaps. But at the end of the day, the themes in these books are universal for all children. Yes. Everybody knows what it is to have a best friend. Yeah. Everybody knows what it is to be sad, to be afraid, to be happy.
Have a bully like Herbert.
To have a bully, right, like Herbert, right? All of this is real. I just happen to ground them in the framework of Black children because that's what I directly connect to.
Mm-hmm. Do you have one tip in 15, 20 seconds for parents trying to get their kids started on a life of reading?
Oh, listen and pay attention to what your kids are already interested in. It is foolish to fight against the stimuli of their time. Mm-hmm. You will not win. So figure out how to work with YouTube and TikTok and introduce reading that way.
Okay.
That is powerful.
That is good advice.
When we first met you, you were single. Have you gotten someone yet? Do I need to fix
Come
you
on,
up?
Gail, what are you talking about? Hey,
this is a
No.
Always.
Jason, just ask it right back to him.
Exactly.
All right, friends, let's go ahead and stop there. That was silly. Let's go ahead. Let's talk now about Stunt Boy, because I do want to know from you, what are some of your wonders and what are some of the things that you noticed? So right now, let's go ahead. If any of you out there, if you want to type it in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and we can go ahead and get started from there. All right, so I see a couple of you are typing in the chat, so let's look there. All right, so let me read this. All right, so this one, they didn't put their name on it. Make sure that you're putting your name on this, okay? So this friend, they said that they noticed that there's a lot of speech bubbles in this book, as well as there is written word, and you're right. And I think that's really a neat process here, that Jason and Raul, they collaborated. So you can see that we've got speech bubbles, but it's not all speech bubbles, like it's not a comic. So we've got written text here. So we've got that graphic novel feel of just really great storytelling. So we've got a narrator, and then we still have the dialogue in those speech bubbles. Good, that was a really great thing to notice. Any other notices or wonders out there? Oh, good question. Okay, so this one is from Alea. Alea says, that she is wondering why what's his name? Yeah, Herbert. So why Herbert here, why is he always picking on Portico? Like what's their relationship? What's the history there? I think that's a really good wonder. And I wonder myself if maybe Jason's going to tell us a little bit more about that as we keep reading the book. Yeah. Anyone notice? I loved how when we were watching that interview, Jason talked about the frets out there. Anyone notice or had any connections to that? Okay, I see some more typing. All right, it's okay. We don't have to, if you don't want to talk, you can type. All right, yeah. So here's that page, the frets. You got it. All right, and I see some friends. Okay, so this one's from Dylan. Dylan said that they related to the frets, and they liked how they noticed that it showed our main character here, Stunt Boy, that he's sweating, he's grabbing towards his stomach, feeling a little bit uneasy. Yep, I like that. So you're right, we noticed that. And so once again, that's Jason working with the illustrator, with Raul, and they're trying to help us understand how Portico is feeling in this story. So yeah, I think that was a really great notice. Good job. What else did you guys notice or wonder a little bit? All right, so I see Raylan. Raylan's typing in here. Raylan wrote that they're wondering a little bit more about the little half door where Herbert goes in. They're wondering, where does that go? What does Herbert's home look like in there? I wonder that too. I'm wondering that as well. All right, anything else that you noticed or wondered? Yep. Okay, so I see that Kayla is saying here that she noticed that Stunt Boy or Portico has a great connection, and it seems that he has a relationship with his grandma. Yep, I think that's a really great thing that you noticed. Oh, and yep, you're right. So that same kind of positive relationship is there with Zola. So Zola is the friend who lives across the street. You're right. What else did you notice about that Zola's relationship? Okay, so, all right, so I see that you wrote a little bit about how you noticed that Zola really was a great friend in helping Portico meditate and find some of that green zone balance. Good job. That was a great connection there. All right. Anyone else? What else did you notice or are you wondering about here? What'd you like when I'm turning right now to page 33, where Stunt Boy was born? Did you guys notice about that? And Jason talked about that a little bit in his interview. What did you guys notice? So here it is right here. And that's how Stunt Boy was born. Yeah. All right, so I see Zyler there. Yep. All right, so Zyler just wrote that he noticed that Stunt Boy was born out of compassion. Yep, just like what Jason mentioned. And that we all have superheroes. You're right. So we all have superpowers and that we can be a superhero based on those ordinary, what we think are ordinary skills, but they're really powerful skills, right? Like especially things around like perseverance and compassion and things where we're helping one another. You got it. Good job. All right, any other wonders or any other things that you noticed? All right, so I see some wonders here. They're wondering about why did Portico's mom and dad get 2 apartments? I'm kind of wondering the same thing, but now after hearing Jason's interview, yeah. Yep, so someone just wrote, I see Tyler just wrote, they wonder if Portico's parents are going to get a divorce and how are they going to tell that to Portico? Yep, I'm wondering that same thing. And it doesn't look like Portico's put that together, but maybe some of us have because we've watched now Peter's interview. Okay, all right. So those are all really good things. Any other? No? Okay, I think that's it. All right, so this was a short, quick discussion, and that's okay. Next time, hopefully we'll get some more friends in here so that we can talk about this wonderful, wonderful book as we continue reading in Stunt Boy. Thanks so much for coming today and joining us. And next week, we'll read on in Stunt Boy, and then we'll talk about it later next week as well. All right, stay tuned. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Enjoy reading.